everyone. Welcome back to this week's virtual worship gathering at Awaken Church. We hope that you guys enjoyed last week with the Super Bowl of preaching. Kind of took a little different feel than it normally does. I mean, the Super Bowl of preaching every year is different than everything we do the rest of the year, right? But this year was even different than what we usually do for the Super Bowl of preaching. So we hope that you enjoyed that. We hope that that was something special for you, but also that you were able to take away the not so thinly veiled messages that we tried to communicate through that. So if you didn't get a chance to watch it, we encourage you to go back and watch that. It was posted last week. But this week we kick off a new series that we're excited about. This series is called Wonder, and we're going to be looking specifically at the miracles of Jesus. And this series is going to take us right up to Easter. And so we're excited about this. And so we hope that you guys really get a lot out of this as we look in the Gospels very explicitly at some of the miracles that Jesus did and what we as a church today can take away from them. So in just a moment, you're going to see me actually in this exact same setting, leading a little bit of a song study as we talk about some worship things. And then Steve is going to kick off our first message of this new series. So we're so glad that you guys are with us, and enjoy. For our worship element this week, we're going to be doing another song study, which is where we take one of the songs that we sing together as a community at Awaken, and we break it down a little bit, and we take a look at why we sing the songs that we sing. And so the song that we're going to be doing that this week is the song Take Heart from Hillsong United's album Aftermath. Honestly, the first time I came across this song, the thing that drew me to it was not anything deep or particularly spiritual. It was the guitar hook at the intro is just so catchy. And musically, I love the way that the song creates tension and builds into this just really anthemic, powerful bridge. And so the first thing that grabbed me was just musically, I was a fan of the song. But leading a community in worship is more than just choosing the songs that are the most catchy or the songs that are the most fun for the band to play, or at least it should be, right? And so it's about what we feel like our community needs to hear, and we need to affirm to one another. And so that's where kind of the deep part of choosing why do we sing the songs that we sing comes into play.
So take heart, His love lead us through the night, and hold on to hope, and take courage again.
The title and the main theme of this song is based in the Gospel of John, chapter 16, verse 33, where Jesus says to his disciples, and it says, "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, for I have overcome the world." If I'm being honest, a lot of the songs in this vein with this kind of message, I'm actually not a huge fan of leading. I worry that it creates this dichotomy between the church and the world that is unhealthy, and also sings about this future reign and kingdom of God where there's no pain, there's no sorrow, no sickness, etc., which admittedly the bridge of this song does. And if depending on how it's handled, it can lead to what I've come to understand as this extractional mindset, this idea that the church should be extracted from the world around it, that it should be insulated and removed from this ambiguous notion of the world that is evil and bad. And I don't think if we have a healthy understanding of the role of the church, that that's what the church is called to do. In fact, in the very next chapter, John chapter 17, Jesus is praying for his disciples and for the church, and he says explicitly, praying to God the Father, he says, "I'm not praying for you to take them out of the world, but rather instead I have sent them into the world." What makes this song different, though, is that while it does paint this triumphant picture of this world to come, where God's justice and peace and freedom reign, it uses it not to encourage the church to withdraw from the world, the idea that what we do here doesn't matter because we're bound for this future kingdom anyway. rather, it uses this idea to encourage the church to take heart and to hold on to hope and have courage to continue to pursue God's work in this world. It recognizes this idea of God's kingdom as both already and not yet, that there is this future kingdom reign of God that is fully realized, but also that the kingdom of God has been inaugurated, it has began, and it began with the coming of Jesus Christ, and that the church today has a role to play in that kingdom.
All our troubles, all our tears, God at home, He has overcome.
This song, Take Heart, I believe is able to hold that tension, to recognize that future where the shalom of God is fully present, and to use that to encourage us to work towards seeing that kingdom here in our world, even when we may become incredibly discouraged. And looking at the world around us right now, this song is 10 years old, but it seems to be, unfortunately, ever relevant for our church today. So as we look at why we sing the songs we sing, that is very much why we sing this song.
Hey guys, tonight we begin a new series called On the Miracles of Jesus. We're going to be taking a 6-week journey leading up to Easter, looking at 6 different miracles of Jesus. We're going to be looking at what he did, what it meant, and sort of what we can learn from that in the process and what that shows us. Tonight we're going to be looking in John chapter 9 at the miracle where Jesus heals a man who was born blind. Now, just to give you a little background to this account here in John chapter 9, Jesus was using miracles as a sign that showed that he was, in fact, the long-awaited Messiah. He was already publicly saying to his disciples and to those he would speak with that he was the Messiah, God in the flesh. As he was doing that, he encountered a lot of conflict and pushback from the spiritual leaders, the religious leaders, the Pharisees of the day. He was having that constant conflict with them. They had already determined that Jesus was not the Messiah, and they determined that anybody who called him Messiah would be tossed out of the synagogue, and they were working against him as strongly as possible. In fact, they had already devised and determined that they felt he should die because he was undermining their power base, and they didn't like that. They wanted to get rid of him. So this story in John chapter 9 actually begins in John chapter 8. Jesus was speaking with the Pharisees, and he made this powerful statement here. And let me just read it here for you. It says, Jesus spoke again. This is beginning in John chapter 8, verse 12. Jesus spoke again to the people and said, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. So Jesus made this, I am the light of the world statement. And then there's this long sort of contentious conversation going back and forth with the Pharisees. And they were going back and forth. They were pushing back, giving him a hard time on this, trying to discredit him. In fact, even saying that his miracles were done through the power of Satan, not through the power of God. And Jesus had made a comment during this conversation that Abraham saw his day coming and rejoiced when it got there. And they said, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. Abraham of like hundreds and hundreds of years ago, you're not even 50 years old. And you say, you know Abraham, what, you think you're better than Abraham? You think you're greater than Abraham? What's up with this? Then Jesus made this statement. He said, hey, before Abraham was, I am. And when he made that statement, they went crazy because they knew exactly what he was saying. He was identifying himself as God in the flesh, and it drove him. It was crazy. It goes back to Exodus chapter 3, when Moses was called by God to go lead the children of Israel out of slavery in Egypt to the promised land. And Moses was pushing back, saying, God, I don't think I'm the right guy. And God kept saying, no, you're my guy. And then Moses finally said, okay, Lord, when I go to your people and I say, God told me, and they ask, well, what's his name? What should I say? At that point, God said, I am who I am. Tell them I am sent you. And that was a powerful name used for God ever since then. That name, I am, carries a lot of different meaning and nuances. It sort of means I was, I am, and I will be. It's sort of this all-encompassing, emphatic declaration that I am God. It has a significance of being self-existing. It's a powerful statement of divinity. And again, everyone knew exactly what he was saying. So if you're going to make that kind of statement, you better be able to back it up. And that's where John chapter 9 comes in. So let's go to John chapter 9. We're going to pick it up right at the beginning. I'm going to read the first 7 verses, which is sort of going to set up for us this story of the man who was born blind and how Jesus healed that blindness. It says, as he went along, he saw a man blind from birth. And his disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Neither this man nor his parents sinned, Jesus said, but this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. As long as it is day, we must do the works of him who sent me. Night is coming when no one can work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world. After saying this, he spit on the ground, made some mud with the saliva, and put it on the man's eyes. Go, he told him, wash in the pool of Siloam. This word means sent. So the man went and washed and came home seeing. So the story starts out, we see this man gets his physical sight. And when Jesus looked for a sign, he literally chose the worst case scenario. Now, if Jesus said, I'm the I am, I was, I will always be, this guy was like the exact opposite. He was like, I was blind, I am blind, and I will always be blind because I was born blind with no eyesight, and I have no hope of ever getting it back. And when Jesus encountered this guy and the disciples started this discussion where they blamed the victim, right? They were looking to blame the victim. Instead, Jesus was looking to offer hope. Disciples saw a dark past. Jesus was looking forward to a bright future. He spits on the ground and he makes some mud and he applies it to this guy's eyes. You think, why in the world did he do that? That's a little gross. Could he just like speak the words? Could he use something nicer than spit and mud and dirt to make mud to put in his eyes? It's like, come on, man, what's up with this? There's been a lot of discussion on that. I think most commentators sort of agree that when Jesus did this, it was sort of symbolizing going back to the creation account. When God stepped into creation and he made man, it says he made Adam out of the dust of the ground. And this was sort of looking back towards that creative process. And here it's the creative process of creating brand new eyesight in someone who never had it. But also when God made Adam, he made Adam for the purpose of a relationship. And here, when Jesus was healing this man and giving him eyesight, it wasn't only to create that, but it's also for the purpose of relationship. He told the guy to go wash in the pool of Siloam. And I don't know, I guess if someone spit and made mud and put it in my eyes, I'd want to go wash too. But what was unique here is that this guy went to wash and was obedient and did exactly what he didn't go find the nearest water fountain or stone jar of water. He went to the pool of Siloam, which by the way happened to be right next to the temple, and he washed there. And it says when he came up, he went home seeing. So the man didn't have to, I think is unique, didn't have to clean himself all up, right? Before he met Jesus. He just responded to Jesus in belief and obedience. So the man gains his physical sight, and then he sort of gains a growing understanding of who Jesus is. Now, we don't have time to read the whole chapter 9 here and go through this, but I'm just going to sort of summarize. So when the man washed, he came up seeing, and all of his neighbors and his family said, what? Neighbors in particular are saying, are you sure you're that guy? He said, yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm the guy. Once I was blind, but now I can see. And so they asked him, well, who did this then? And he really didn't know. He said, it's that man they call Jesus. They said, oh yeah, well, where's he at now? He's like, I really don't know. And then the Pharisees, their job was to authenticate miracles that might happen. And of course, this miracle was one that was a messianic miracle. It was one that was supposed to proclaim that Messiah has shown up on the scene because it's never happened before, or someone received sight who'd never had sight before. The healing of someone who's born blind. And the Pharisees called him, and they just criticized him because they had already determined Jesus wasn't the Messiah. And so they asked him, well, who do you think did this? And who is Jesus? And they said, well, I think he's probably a prophet. His understanding's starting to grow a little bit. Well, then they sent him away, and they still didn't believe him. So they called his parents, and his parents were afraid to answer because they had already determined that whoever said Jesus was Messiah was going to be tossed out of the synagogue. So the parents said, I don't know, why don't you ask him? He's old enough. Go ask him yourself. So they called him back in a second time, and they began to grill him again and criticize Jesus in the process. And he starts saying, look, why are you asking so many questions? Do you want to be his disciples too? So you can see the progression. He wants to start following this Jesus who just gave him his eyesight and become a disciple. And they said, oh, wait a minute, Jesus is just a sinner. He does this by the power of Satan. He says, no, that's amazing. This man must be from God, or else he could do nothing. And the Pharisees used the typical argument that most people do. When you can no longer attack the argument, you attack the person. It says so they hurled insults at him and threw him out of the synagogue. So the guy had gained his physical sight. He had a growing understanding of who the healer was. And we're seeing the next part that now he gains the sight that really matters. We're going to pick it up in chapter 9, beginning in verse 35. This is sort of the end of the story. It says, Jesus heard they had thrown him out. And when he found him, he said, do you believe in the Son of Man? Now that's a powerful term. We're going to come back to that in a moment, but that term, Son of Man. Who is he, sir? The man asked. Tell me, so I may believe in him. And Jesus said, you have now seen him. In fact, he is the one speaking with you. Then the man said, Lord, I believe, and he worshiped him. So this guy's growing understanding now leads him back face to face with the very one who healed him, that is Jesus, the Messiah. And the man now gains his spiritual sight. See, this is interesting. Jesus heard they got thrown out, and he sought him and found him, right? Jesus was aware of his real need, and he sought him out. The man had heard what Jesus had said, and he found the healing he really needed. See, when Jesus said that Son of Man, that's a powerful term, right? It's used 81 times in the gospel. It's only used of Jesus, and it's what's called a messianic title. It means it was in the Old Testament. They say when Messiah shows up on the scene, he will be called the Son of Man. So it was a name. So when they used that terminology, they knew they were talking about Messiah that was going to be there. So it says that the man heard and he found. And what happened next after he found the truth is, yes, I believe. It says the man chose, he believed, and he worshiped. It says he heard the truth, he saw the light, he believed the Lord, and then he worshiped Jesus. Right there, had a personal worship experience with Jesus, right there, wherever Jesus found him, on the road where he found him. So as we sort of wrap this up, we have to ask ourselves the questions. What do we learn from this account of the man who was born blind and Jesus healed? And I don't think I can actually say it any better than what was said in the book of John itself. When John sort of closed off, or near the end of the book of John, he sort of wrote like a purpose statement. This is why this book was written. This is why I wrote these things down. And in this purpose statement, this is what John had said. He said, Jesus performed many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not recorded in this book. But these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. So Jesus is the promised Messiah who pursues us in the midst of our spiritual brokenness and our spiritual blindness. Jesus is the light of the world, the one who offers us spiritual light and spiritual life. Like the healed, formerly blind man, we should respond to Jesus when he encounters our life the same way this man did, with belief and with worship. Each week we ask 3 questions, sort of a head, heart, and hand question, to help us sort of process what we've learned and discussed during our time together. So I'm going to throw out a couple of questions, and if you're by yourself, I'm just going to ask you to ask these maybe with yourself. If you're in your MC or a small group, ask them there and go back and share these back and forth. The first question is this. It's more of a head question. It's, what is your story of spiritual healing? Think about when you first received your spiritual sight, like the man in the story, and thank God for pursuing you. So again, what is your spiritual story of what is your story of spiritual healing? Think about when you first received your spiritual sight, like the man in the story, and thank God for pursuing you. The heart question is a little bit different. It's more of a heart challenge versus a heart question. And you'll see when I read it here. It says, have a personal one-on-one time of worship this week with Jesus, just like the man did, right? Find a worship song or two, get alone with Jesus, and sing from your heart to the Lord. Have a personal worship experience with Jesus. So again, number 2, the heart. Have a personal one-on-one time of worship this week with Jesus. Find a worship song or two, get alone with Jesus, and sing from your heart to the Lord. Maybe you're driving down your car. Maybe you're sitting with your headphones in your bedroom. Maybe you're taking a walk, riding your bike. In this kind of weather, maybe you're snow skiing. It's a little crazy, I know, but have a personal time of worship with Jesus this week. And 3, finally, the hand question. Consider who you feel the Lord may be leading you to share your story of spiritual healing with this week. And if you're not sure you have one, then commit to have a conversation this week with someone you trust will help you think this through. So again, consider who you feel the Lord may be leading you to share your story of spiritual healing with this week. And if you're not sure you have one, then commit to have a conversation this week with someone you trust will help you to think it through. Well, guys, love you so much. Miss you. Looking forward to when we can be together. Hopefully that will be very soon. In the meantime, be thinking about this series and be thinking about the miracle where Jesus said, I am the light of the world. And he healed a man who was born blind. Good night, guys. See you soon.